love for all the right reasons. And here we are. I got a new camera, which I've been playing around with a little bit. So I can stand up now, and I listen. Remember, I can zoom in or zoom out. Is that one? Here we go. It's an
Yeah.
AI-enabled camera that Jed's turned me on to here. Thank you for that. And you know all the tricks of using this camera, but basically it just follows me around, I guess. And or there's a
Uh,
pretty mode. Jed, you're probably like 50 years older than you really are. You're using the young mode in this camera, but
Let me try. How do I turn it on?
yeah, there's a so this camera anyway, it's got this option where it'll make you look different, and I'm not gonna turn it on right now because
Removes
I might
gray.
get yeah, it removes gray
I
from your
just
beard. I'm
you
like,
have
it's
you have to
totally
tell me
cheating.
what's the make and model of the camera. I just want to get one
Uh,
also.
links in the chat. Obsbot Tiny 2.
Yeah,
Say again.
Obsbot Tiny 2.
yeah,
Spot tiny two.
yeah, Obsbot. Yeah, it's fun. I feel I'm not going to turn on the young mode. People, all of a sudden, I'm either like on some new, pill that makes you young, or I'm totally cheating using AI. So you'll get me unfiltered. Just as I get old, you'll have to deal with it. All right, who do we got lined up today? Rob, what do
We
what do we
we
got
got
going?
a few folks. First, congratulations on the 10,000 stars, Roof, on
Yeah,
Bob Flow.
10,000. Yeah, considering that project was literally a random Tuesday kind of project, right?
Yeah,
It's funny that some of the things take off and some just go and you never think about it again. But this was one of those ones that's taken off. We're just shy of 290,000 downloads.
yeah,
Um, and that's a milestone right there. So it's pretty amazing to see it take off. I'm going to make some updates to it probably over the next week or so. I've got a little bit too much cooking, and which has been giving me not a lot of time to focus on that. But I'm going to do an update that improves the use of the MCP context. So right now, I know everyone complains that I use too much of their context window. So I've come up with a new plan that uses the new MCP, which I have integrated if you know where to look. But I'm going to make that the default setting for anytime you install Cloud Flow, and basically it just requests the parts of the tools it needs when it needs it. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be great. So for today, we got a few folks. First of all, we've got Stephen Bloom is with us from PubNub. So he's going to be sharing with us some communication frameworks that he uses for the telemedicine industry. So that should be interesting. Dragan and his work with Q&E and a bunch of stuff that he's been doing with the tribe. And then Brad Ross, our OG, and is going to share some Savant Swarm orchestration. He just does a lot of work in the neural symbolic space. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it is that he's going to share with us today. And then we've got some open time.
yeah. And so remind me again, we've got the big hackathon happening in what, 2 weeks
Yeah,
with
that's
TV
right.
Sync?
December 5th, 6th, and 7th. There's
Hmm.
a registration form for members or folks that want to put together a team. It's a collaborative effort to solve a big challenge. So the challenge that has been given to the foundation, hats off to the Paris team, orchestrating everything, bringing it together with TV Sync, is to reduce the amount of time that's being spent by people looking for content. An average, this is an astounding number, 45 minutes a day, which represents billions of hours a day of people just searching for content. So there's a ton of energy in the space. So the challenge is, can the Agenix Foundation globally come up with all of this frontier technology, some innovative solutions that will reduce that 45-minute window. So pretty amazing stuff. We'll be having so encourage everybody who's interested and wants to participate, sign up on the sign up form that's on the agenix.org website, and then we'll have a roundup meeting with everybody who's participating to sort of get our technical ducks in a row, divide the areas of focus, and lay down an attack plan. Should be really neat.
And the winner get. So the big question is, what do we get for doing it? So this is a new approach that we've been sort of working our way through. It's based on the concepts of a DAO, or decentralized autonomous organization. And what that means is you're benefiting collectively from what everybody does as part of the hackathon. So the winner, in essence, is everybody. And the distribution, if this thing gets adopted, if it gets adopted by, either TV Sank or some other media company, there's a license that essentially they have to pay based on the scale of the use of the system. And everyone that's part of the DAO that contributed to some degree, again, you don't have to win, you just got to participate, gets a piece of those royalties, which is a kind of a cool idea. It's a collective, if you will, and to help sort of get the ball rolling and give you a kind of stack of things you could actually use. One of the things I was looking at was, how do you get to 500 million concurrent users, right? How do you manage an infrastructure that handles that? And one of the problems and this is something I'm working on right now. You guys are getting a little sneak peek because I'm thinking we're going to precede the tools a little bit in the hackathon, giving you the architecture to scale to that number. Because I think a lot of people are going to be like, how in the world do you build a system that can support learning real time hundreds of millions of users? So I looked into it and I'm like, well, actually, most of the vector systems that are out there work in one of two ways. They're centralized, the quadrants and the pine cones and those types of vector databases are scaling based on just raw sort of adding multiple versions of it, but they don't really work well outside of the specific large server that they're sitting on. Like they're just not optimized for that for the most part. There are services like Pinecone that do that as a service, but it's hacky. If you look under the covers, they're basically using, Kubernetes to create multiple virtual machines and then orchestrate them based on a zone availabilities and that kind of thing, kind of like Supabase does. So none of these are truly scalable in the way that you need to scale for a media company of that size. So what I was looking at is basically creating a system similar to the agent DB sort of hyper graph structure that allows you to sort of learn and adapt and move in different directions, but apply that in a way that could be distributed across multiple sort of environments globally and maintain sort of that speed and concurrency. So this is what I'm working on. It's early days, and but I think this could potentially be an architecture that would work well for essentially allowing us to deploy. It works in your browser, so if you want to embed the sort of machine learning component purely without any need of any real decent GPU or CPU, no GPU required. All you need to do is pop this puppy into a website browser, or which, if you look at a lot of how these tools that are built for media companies are actually put together, they're essentially wrappers. They're PWAs. Essentially, these are websites that are contained on like a TV or a box or a Fire Stick or something like that. So relatively speaking, they're embedding this sort of web-based version of the vector makes it easy to have learning that's specifically tailored to the person that's learning, who's watching what, and it does that locally. Then it distributes it, gives it back to sort of wherever it needs to do, but it learns everything it needs to learn without having to go back to the cloud, which makes it fast, cheap, and hugely scalable. That's what I was attempting to build here. If you try to do that with, let's say, Pinecone, that requires an API. If you try to do with Quadrant, that requires you going and essentially hosting it somewhere, and it needs a decent infrastructure. It doesn't essentially run in your browser. So you get all those benefits. It's super fast and super optimized. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here a little bit for where we go. And the vector part worked out well after Ruve, so it became Ruve Vector. I know I've got some issues. What can I
So
say?
that's client-side learning, and then with the signals being available, there's still federated learning.
Yeah, so the federation I built into my agentic flow package about a month ago, and what that does essentially uses this idea of real-time channels to
Mhm.
communicate between each of the instances, and they can communicate based on this idea of a hypergraph. The hypergraph is multi-dimensional, so it can tell you what I'm learning currently, what I've learned in the past, and what I'm going to potentially learn in the future, a prediction. But what it can also do is orchestrate itself in the form of the swarm itself and say, what other instances are available out there, and what can I learn from those as well? And for that, what we can infer based on sort of what others are doing are not the obvious things, how long did they watch a show for, but the less obvious things like what's the psychology driving the person to watch a scary show on a Friday night, but not on a Tuesday morning? Or and catering it to not just generally we think you might like this show, but specifically based on your particular psychological, you know, quirks. You're most likely going to watch some news at 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. And as crazy as that sounds, most of these systems that I see today don't do anything like that. They don't take your psychology into sort of the recommendation unless it's like TikTok and you're secretly being mind controlled or whatever they do at TikTok these days. Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've got really interesting technical grounding to begin to explore prepping for the hackathon. Yeah, it's December 5th, 6th, and 7th. So we'd encourage everybody from around the world, all the chapters, sign up as an individual, put teams together, what have you. It's a big collective effort. Really, really exciting there, Riff.
Ask
Yeah.
guys, do we have a mock data set to work with, or do we have some kind of data set we can use for training and testing and stuff?
No, we don't currently. And this is something that we were discussing yesterday. And I think what we're going to do, data, we can get real data, but it's expensive to get right now, and we're kind of winging it a little bit. So what I've been doing a lot of lately is I've been using Gemini as a synthetic data generator. And it works really well for mimicking the data that you're streaming to different systems in a really convincing way. And so what I'm thinking, and it's super fast and super cheap. So I probably won't use Gemini 3, which is an amazing model, but the 2.5, I think if it's a turbo or something like that, is great for this. It's cheap, it's fast, and it can generate that sort of synthetics. So what I'm thinking is maybe we create some kind of CLI MCP that helps generate that data, and then you just basically have to pop in like a Gemini key, and it'll kind of work from there.
Okay,
Think,
'cause I know there's a big Netflix database, a data set they released a few years ago for the recommendation system competition they had. There's the one that had $1 million prize pool, but I'm not sure if that's specifically relevant to our
yeah,
use case.
probably,
Yeah,
yeah. No, can you share that? It's totally
yeah,
relevant.
sure. Give me a sec.
Yeah, so there's two directions we can go, right? One is content specific, like understanding the nuance of the content, and the other is like user specific. What does the user desire, kind of thing. But we're gonna have to figure it out. But I think the combination of stuff we built, we're in a pretty good spot to show off a little bit, and that's mostly what we're doing. Lorraine, you got a comment?
Yeah, two parts. I have worked on the Netflix recommender before because I did it as part of a master's in data science. So I am familiar with that project. Um, but I was going to say I was expecting the hackathon for us to be building something for all our videos and all our content. So on the foundation, all the stuff you've been live streaming and all from the different chapters as well.
Mhm.
I thought we have a lot of rich data. Why aren't we trying to do something which makes it easier for people to come and find and discover our content and our information?
It's a good idea. And our friends at Kaltura put together this video.agentics.org site. So if you're interested in a certain topic, like let's say I've mentioned, I don't know, Claude Claude Code, then we can do two different approaches here. We can search for flashcards, which is kind of cool. It kind of gives you a quick sort of overview of what it needs to do. And in this case, I'm just going to quickly do a search for Claude Code. And this is using AI to do the analysis. They've got agents in the background doing all kinds of different agentic things. Um, and now it organizes every time I've set it. Now I should probably choose, here we go. So here are the sources. And I can choose that. So we got different options there. Yeah, it's kind of a cool. Sorry, right, it's clip. On June 27th, I talked about trading with AI powered systems. So if you want to catch up on something that we might have discussed previously, and you don't quite remember what we said, this works semantically, so you don't have to be specific about what you're asking. Like how to create a vector, I don't know, vector storage or something. And yeah, something like that. Yeah. It's
So
and
there's an assumption. So what I would say with that is, to quote Blumsfield, you don't know what you don't know. So you're asking the question with the expectation you might find it, right? And maybe you don't know to ask the question.
Yeah, that's a fundamental chicken and egg problem. I guess you need the egg. I guess the egg came first. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of introduction to a lot of things early. When we have a tendency to find and explore things quite a bit before the rest of the industry seems to figure it out. So in that scenario, I guess what we could do is try to create maybe like a page on our website that jumpstarts this because you can actually share these, right? So once you've got this in place, there's a share option and copy the link, and we can directly link to these things. So in this case,
Ruth,
where
can
did
you
I,
place that in the chat, please?
yeah, here, let me pop that in here.
So,
So you kind of, you can,
if I take you back one step, right? So there's this whole concept. So, like I said, so I have actually studied this academically, and so don't want to bore people too much. But there's this whole concept about user um they call it item recommendation, right? So at one point in time you used to say, oh, these two people, they they have all these characteristics, let me recommend stuff. And then Netflix stuff came about and it said, okay, these people look at the same type of content, let me recommend more content. So you look at a page, a video, and I look at a video. The next time you watch a video, I'll say, okay, we've watched a video. Lorraine might like that video because she's liked other videos that he's watched, right? So
mhm.
it's that sort of concept that we could work on, and we could see if it works, and
Well,
maybe we can,
we're creating different groups. I think
yeah.
that that's a perfect concept. I think that you're hitting it dead on. We have the unique ability to do things in swarms and apply really large amounts of sort of, intelligence to problems that probably wasn't there when Netflix did their approach a few years ago. So my guess is whatever Netflix ended up doing, they probably used traditional ML applied it in maybe novel ways, but it's still pretty traditional. We're in this point though where we can now apply very hyper personalized, low cost, low effort, low resource intelligence to things using our swarms and agents. So I'm just curious what in the world we'll end up building, and I think that direction sounds like a really interesting one to explore. All right. Yeah, so that's we've got a lot of stuff. We're doing this mostly because we can. No, we don't have $1 million prize pool, but what I think we want to do going forward is do these more frequently, and this model works as we grow and become more focused and have more opportunities. We can apply this to different industries and verticals. Maybe we do a healthcare focused hackathon in January. Maybe we do one focused on some other vertical. And now these can be at the intersection of doing good, but they can also be at the intersection of making money. But what's interesting is we as a collective can take all the things that we know, Lorraine's comment and others, and apply those broadly, and then all hopefully benefit those collectively. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too altruistic on this one, but it sounds like an exciting
Never too
direction.
altruistic, Rube. I think the concept of the banner was learn, build, and earn. And by the way, January is already booked by Tourism France. So next opening would be February.
Okay, I got to polish up on my French. I've got bad high school Canadian French, which is probably better than most of the people
What?
around. But when I go to France, they always respond to me in English, so that must say something about my capabilities or lack thereof. Oh, we do have a website. This last thing before we finish up here, and thank you, Matt, and the rest of the team who helped put this together. Basically, it's agentics.org/hackathon. Here's the challenge, and here's the event, and yep, we got a nice crew. We could probably enter other people's hackathons too. Why not? But here we go. This is how the revenue sharing works. Check out the site if you want. I'll pop this in the chat here for you guys right now. All
So
right.
we sorry to interrupt you. So what I was hoping we could try and do for our hackathons is if there's like a learning objective. So you know how I just talked about recommenders. So it's like there's a theme, even though it's loose and people can go about doing it in different approaches, which is really cool. But it's like there's a problem set, but there's an underlying, this is a skill we're hoping to come out with. And what do you
Mm,
think about that?
that's a really good idea. So that's flipping
Specific
this.
skill.
Yeah, so you're saying we're focused on the problem. Some 500 million people need to get their media faster. But you're saying, what if there's a way to include the ability to say, I'm looking to improve a certain skill within my learning of becoming an agentic engineer, right? So that's applied
Exactly.
to the
So it
problem
then,
versus.
yes. So it then means that although we're all working on the same problem, because we've narrowed it down to a specific skill, what we'll then see is all the different participants, different ways trying to enhance that skill. And it's like, oh, I didn't think of that. And maybe with that, we can then build on something further again, because
Hmm.
everyone's now looking at it slightly different ways. If it's way too open, there's too disjointed. So a lot of times when you go to hackathons, it's very hard to like, join up the projects. But normally, if we're saying it's a specific skill, and it's like maybe there was a little bit extra you needed to have done, and people can, build on the ideas.
So I think that might be team structure. So
No, no,
that's a
not
like
team.
who.
I mean more skill based. So how, for example, um, say before it was like RAG, right?
Mhm.
Or some sort of thing. So it's like, okay, maybe we want to, so it's like a guidance. People don't have to listen to it. Maybe for this, let us see if we can, you know, build on one specific technique to become an agentic engineer. So just one thing, and then people can see how,
Mhm.
if they want to incorporate it or not, or totally disregard it. But it just means that everyone's trying to do something along the same lines, but looking at it from slightly different perspectives.
That does remind me of a problem that I've run into, I think, and I've heard others in when using these agentic systems to do their coding. It's actually really difficult to integrate other people into these agentic coding swarms. I think Noah mentioned this human hive mind. It's in some ways a lot easier if you have a single, really capable engineer and then go solve a
Mhm.
problem from the beginning to end. Once you try to bring in somebody else to help collaborate, there seems to be like a cadence mismatch that seems to happen. And that's the problem with these sort of team structures. And I don't necessarily have an answer to how we resolve that, just that it seems to sometimes be easier with one. Anybody else have any?
Ruth, actually, I think the thing has slightly changed now because I think with the recent improvements, especially like anti-gravity is amazing in this, including Cloud Code Web, right? Simple prompts and using components to create. So the creation, but then if you intersperse that with things like Notebook LM and others, then someone to peer review, like what I did with John O'Hare, for example, when we were doing that video stuff, he came in. So I think it's like piecemeal. It's like you could develop a component or a fair bit of components on your own through the interactions, but as long as you're logging the prompts and then you give in the context. So the peer review process, that I think that's just how I could see this collaboration could happen better. But you
Yeah.
don't need two people to build at the same time unless you agree, like, okay, you're going to build that component, but why would you do that? Because the agents are going to build the components from the PRD anyways. So, it's that's one.
Yeah,
I think if anything that could come out from this is probably that we find for this particular use case, we find a standardized set of agents that we could share across the team. So we build agents that are specific to a media recommendation project. and then they're quite specified for this particular use case and the components that need to be built for that. So, but I think that's definitely that.
There's
See,
there's
the,
the there's a problem with there's a multitude of different ways to build agents, right? Everyone starts with Python or whatever. They're using LangChain, and then they realize that's slow, and they move on to other environments. So and that's fine, but we're going to have sort of sprawl of different approaches if we don't normalize to some degree.
That's right.
regulating the
And
environment now seems premature. I'd rather embrace the chaos, and then hopefully from the chaos, a series of best practices emerges.
Right. So
another valid take. Just a reminder, though, that we will want to be orchestrating a specific dedicated hackathon technical planning meeting. We'll all get together and jam all these options because there's a lot of valid perspectives.
So I've been running this AI coding sessions for, I don't know, like the last 6 months or so. So what I found, what really takes a long time, and what's most of the like successful sessions we do, is actually develop an initial spec. Like, so you talk to the agent and basically discuss what you exactly was you trying to build, like how it works, like all the PRD documents, and that people can review, people can actually work on specific components of PRD documents. And then you just say like, go code. That thing takes like 8 hours, like with the agents, they just sit and chug in there and everything. So like that's, the another like bottleneck, so the things get developed, but another bottleneck is to validate whatever the agents developed against the PRD. And sometimes a lot of things is people can't overlook like this unknowns, like nobody thought of some problem that actually after you build and you look at the thing and says, that's we missed it. So I think, I don't know how would you structure hackathon, but the actual like coding part and training models and everything that could be pre-automated, and maybe 1 or 2 people can just sit and watch it. But the initial one, just developing the set of specs, what set of PRD documents, what we're trying to build. And then once they come out, it's validating. And also it's important, if it's a very large kind of problem, is to chop it up so it could be sort of assessed independently. But that's where you get the power of the teams. Like, so if somebody like, so if you go in with the backend, you just like somebody will who's kind of like familiar how backends should work, they would see like, yes, this is how backend. So whoever works on the web app or the mobile app, they would just look at against the mock backend, and then you put the whole thing together. Like, but that's where the team sort of parallelization can come from, is from these things.
The parallels, if we have separate parts of the stack that each team is working on, depending on whatever they're building, then the idea of separating, someone gets the database, someone gets the middleware, someone gets the front end, that sort of thing.
Yes, except I don't know, it's also sometimes incorrect to divide by tech, but you divide by sort of business objectives, right? So it's not actually database, but say like recommendation engine or the
Vertical.
billing or something.
Yeah.
Vertical?
Yeah, the
I think you
vertical,
guys are right.
right.
I think there's quite a high risk of it getting siloed given the time we have. But yeah, I mean, we're working as one large team rather than competing against each other, right? So in that sense.
Right. But also my experience with hackathons, nothing ever getting built during hackathon, but you get enough sort of interesting people together, you get sort of like the basic like strawman kind of system that people like can hack at. So it's the aftermath that actually you get useful stuff. But the hackathon itself, you can only build so much, especially if you're training models or something, right? So we launched like 4 hours of training. So what do? We'll just like sit around and chat, right? So
All right.
Well, if you're setting up your training epochs to last 4 hours each, something's probably going wrong.
Depends on what
no,
training, but
no,
generally.
any kind of model that's in the medical domain, and like in biotech, they all take like 3 days to like train. Like, and I never seen anything. I'm saying complete model, not the epoch, but they like basically you get
Oh, the
useful.
model will take 4 hours, sure, but at least the way I've been doing it is whenever I come across a fork, I basically spawn a clone of the trainer and then create what amounts to a LoRa on top of the previous epoch's weights. So I can effectively mix and match different weights together in layers.
Yeah, I was actually thinking like traditional models, right? So if you train like a neural net or something like those take hours a day.
Well, I don't think we should be using anything that takes that quite so long for each training session, and I think the synthetic data hopefully will, it won't be perfect, but it certainly would allow us to move a lot more quickly.
So
I
I've
mean,
got a
why
wild
not? If you
idea.
get kick-ass model, right? So like I mean, it's not that people sit and train you, just to like
Yeah.
let it chug and then.
Guys, I have a wild idea. Um, so we just had someone's, I forget who it was who just said just now about if you're training that's taking too long. It got me thinking, the people who are attending this hackathon are probably quite good at something. Maybe we can all just maybe do like a quick like short tip for people which you can dial into. So maybe this is like how to train or how to do something. So remember, we're learning and building. So if there's a little bit of a learning element there,
Yeah.
that would be really great.
I think it's all a learning element, and just be everything I share with you, I'm learning like that, and I'm just happen to be sharing it with someone other than my AI. So we're just in different stages of our learning path. Some have been doing it for longer than others, but we're all discovering the similar things, and I think that's the most exciting part of what we're doing is this kind of exploration of the unknown. And if for a hackathon gives us some purpose, right? And half the time it's like, what am I going to vibe today? Now I've got a reason. That's it.
No, I think
Yeah,
the key is you've got a deadline.
yeah, a deadline. Yeah, a deadline. Exactly. Yeah. All right,
On
Rob. We have some
May I
presentations to. Oh, yeah. Go.
clarify 30
Yeah.
seconds
Yeah.
on
Sure.
this point is two sub-points. One is that we have been the hackathon page. I think we need to make some changes in terms of the supporters. So obviously Google is supporting us for the GPU and the access points. So I think if we could find a way of updating the page to reflect that. And also the second point is they are giving us GPU access. So are we likely to use that? Like what is the general thought about our need
Yes,
or
we
relevance of
will.
that?
If they give us GPUs, we will 100% use it. So yeah, we
Perfect.
will take GPUs of any sort. What we need the most in terms of their resources are cloud run services.
Cloud Run
We
they're
need
giving Cloud Run. Yep.
Yeah, because Cloud Run's where we're going to do all our agents. And I built that example I was showing you guys earlier. I built that on Cloud Run. So basically, I'm spawning up as many agents as the capacity they're giving us or allowing us to use. So we essentially just need to figure out how we make that capacity available, and what the limitations of that. Like, can I do 5,000 agents, or can I only do 50? That
If
sort of
we
thing.
want that, so Kimon is happy. I mean, we can have a access created sooner if we want to kind of create some structure about it. So he's looking into getting an access early on if one of us want to do some setup work just to create a view so we know what we really need them to provision on the dates.
And as for the hackathon, you said that we should give some love to Google on that page.
Yes, please.
All right, so you guys, we'll do it real time. So what we're using Lovable, as you probably are aware. The back end is Supabase. So Matt goes in here and does it. And we've got different branches, that kind of thing. But right now, I think I'm on the main branch.
You see, we have
Um,
TV5 already added.
Yeah, so basically, we're gonna ask Level, what do you want? What do you want to ask? I guess we're gonna need to get a logo in there as well, I suppose. But for the meantime, we can just give a shout out.
Yeah,
Add
just a shout out is fine, like supported by Google or something like that.
mention that the hackathon hack I guess spell it right. Hackathon is supported.
Why can't it just be sponsors and we've got the mode and
No,
add to it?
they don't want to. They don't want to call it sponsorship. They just want it to be seen as supported by Google.
All right.
All right. We'll take whatever they'll give us. I'm not picky. Mention the next time spike we're doing in the hero. Hero. Along with TV Sankmon. I should probably do a French version of this site too. I feel every time I see it and I see it's in English, I feel like I'm contradicting the very purpose of TV Sync. Um, all right, we'll let that do its thing here for a minute. Rob, who do we got lined up here for presentation? We'll come back to this in a few minutes.
Yeah, that's right. And we can also, we'll have that, we can set up a dedicated setup for the hackathon meeting, probably early next week too. So we'll announce that for everybody. We can dive into all the details.
Let's use the Discord. We need to use that Discord. It's perfect for this sort of thing.
Spectacular. Okay, so yes. So this week's Lightning Talks, why don't we start with our guest, Stephen Bloom from PubNub. Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Hey, I'm very good. Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, welcome. So, we're curious to hear about the communication infrastructure for the telemedicine industry, if I understand correctly. But the podium is all yours, sir.
Absolutely. Has everyone used any telemedicine? If you have, you've probably used my technology, probably Teladoc. They're our customer, and many others. It's really great to be here. I'm excited. I'm just pulling up all my screen stuff here. It's my first time here. And let me see. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, you should be good.
All right. Okay. Let's see here if I can zoom. All right. Let's take a look at, so if you haven't heard of PubNub, we're a communications technology, an API that runs on top of Amazon's infrastructure. We already have over 1 billion devices connected on our network that send and receive JSON messages. We support every programming language and environment, and I'm excited to show you. If you've got yourself a mobile phone there, you can actually zoom in on this QR code, and you'll see it in action. And I'll relate it as well to our efforts in artificial intelligence and all these coding agents that we're describing. So there's a little QR code here at the bottom of the screen. And what it will do is it'll pop up just a simple web page that will allow you to send messages to my screen here. And it will kind of look like this. So we say, like, I love AI. AI with a heart emoji. And we could say HERT. It's kind of neat. And then we just press publish. Hey, I saw it. PubNub's awesome. Hey, thank you for doing that. I don't know who said that. That was really awesome. I wasn't expecting it. That's great. Yeah. And so you see here, the message shows up on my screen. It'll show up on everyone else's screen as well. And it's a globally distributed. You've probably heard of Cloudflare, who had some issues earlier this week. They are a CDN, a content delivery network. We provide the same infrastructure for messaging. We have over 25 million messages per second going through our network. As you can see, it's very fast. It's and you've probably used a phone before to call someone, and that usually takes a few minutes to make the other person's phones ring. We actually power a lot of voice over IP companies because of our enormously performant infrastructure, all written in C and Rust. This enables a communication speed. As soon as you press your finger on the button, it immediately rings the other person's phone faster than you can blink. And we power like airports, we power like telemedicine, like we're describing, multiplayer games, which is the whole reason why I got into software science in the beginning. Was I wanted to be a game developer. It was a lot of fun. How do you make those games? How do you make them pretty and fast? That's why I got into it. And so then I found out that games need communication. When you have multiplayer experiences, it's a lot more fun. And so we power a lot of multiplayer games as well. This is where thank you for saying Steven's the GOAT. All right, I saw that message. AI, there we go. So you can see these here. This is it's really powerful. It's really fast. It's really easy. It's as simple as you see here. It's send and receive over channels. We've got a lot of capabilities built on top, such as storage of the data and presence detection. Hey, are you connected right now? That green dot icon that you see on the screen, we support that and power that as well. We're also releasing a N8N module, which is really easy to install. You just say N8N PubNub module. You add it to your N8N workflow, and you can trigger. This is really neat. It's kind of like RPC. Check this out. This is unusual. You might have this pattern where you've got your laptop, and you don't necessarily want to sort of expose a webhook or open up a server. However, you still want someone else to trigger your workflow. You can do that. You can have a workflow triggered directly on your laptop by someone else. And we're seeing that this is a very common pattern. such a common pattern that we've invested some interesting R&D, and I would love to tell you about it right now. Though it's we're looking at patents, and our head of product would be like, "No, Stephen, don't tell them yet. You can't tell them yet." So I want to tell you about it. It's really exciting, but it's similar to this kind of workflow that you're seeing here because it's a little bit novel. And if you have oh, sorry, I didn't check any of the chat messages here. Let me check real quick if there's anything that shows up. Works for you? Very quiet, can't really hear. Oh, are you having a hard time hearing?
No, we're good. The
Okay.
Yeah, the quick question.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time talking about, HTTP 2 versus HTTP 3. And as far as I can tell, you guys are all TCP and WebSockets. So you're right. You don't support Quick or any of the,
We do support Quick.
you
Yeah, we've got HP3
do.
as well.
Okay.
Quick IPv6. We because it's grown really fast. I was surprised that actually I shouldn't be surprised. Who's surprised that IPv6 is getting a lot of adoption right now? So yes, good point. We do support multiple protocols. Thank you for asking. It's really important.
And is this open source or is this service?
It's a service completely proprietary. We wrote it all in C and Rust. It's currently running on Amazon's infrastructure over Kubernetes with auto scaling. There have been open source implementations that have been built over the top of it, so that way you could run it locally yourself. And it's really about the orchestration. So our code is primarily built for resiliency and guaranteed delivery. That part, in order to orchestrate it across machines that can fail, requires a lot of replication and coordination between machines. When
So
you
can I
send a
run
message through our, oh, go ahead.
can I run the daemon locally, or is this all hosted in the cloud as like an API endpoint?
We're hosted first. There is so if you look for it, there are if you Google for it, you could or search, you will be able to find PubNub open source implementations, and it gives you an API compatible interface that works exactly perfectly with our SDK. And then there's a configuration parameter in the SDK. You just say point it to your local daemon, and then it will just start communicating with that broker directly.
Okay. And how do you charge for it?
We charge per user. You basically get the whole platform with analytics that go through the system. We give you triggers and actions. We even give you functions, little tiny functions that run at the edge of the infrastructure, so you can manipulate the messages that they go through. We call them PubNub functions. This lets you do things like validation, blocking of messages, routing messages over to an AI agent, which is what we use PubNub for internally at our company. We have a lot of plugins with our different CRMs, our Slack and other things like that give us the ability to ask questions and then connect to all these systems. And that's how we built that.
Seems really similar to Superbase's real-time
It is.
stuff.
You got it. It's exactly. It's exactly like that. What we do see is sometimes we get some customers coming over from Superbase or Firebase or there's Pusher. There's a couple others in there.
Mhm.
When they need higher scale. We've built our infrastructure for very large events because we come from sports and media where you've got like tens of millions of users all online all at the exact same time, and they need a distributed, resilient, and highly available infrastructure.
All right. So last question. You might, if you joined early enough, you see we have a hackathon coming up, and we need to scale to 500 million concurrent users with bursts to 25 billion. How would you guys handle that?
We auto scale. Well, we don't have to do anything. It's like automatic. So we've
Yeah,
got
so
Kubernetes.
but the cost it would increase, I would guess. Like
Yes.
you're not gonna let us just do 500 million concurrent requests to your system at no additional cost. So there must be some limitation somewhere.
We'll see, hey, wait, there's someone who's doing something over there. What are they doing? We'll take a look at it, and then we'll see that it all scales up and works good. And then we might be like, oh wait, they're not paying. Click, and we might block you because we don't know.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, right? Are you going to block us? Because you've chosen an interesting day to give this presentation. So right, and so you might get a DDoS in about a week and a half. So what I want to make sure is you can, one, we're not going to get blocked, and two, you might not want us to use the service for that purpose. But your service would be perfect for the types of things we're going to do in that hackathon.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a free forever tier that gives you 200 users per month, and you can send all the messages you need there, and you'd be good to go. This will be a
All the
perfect
messages
setup for
you
that.
said, all the messages we need. So there's no takebacks on that.
There's no takebacks. There's no
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think what you're building is cool. I'd love to explore the quick and HTTP3 integration you have. TCP and long polling just doesn't cut it for me. But I think if you're supporting some of those, we could probably do some interesting things on your platform.
Nice. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I'm exciting. It's looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. Really appreciate you taking the time to present this. So before we go, just give us the super simple, non-technical, I'm building a recommendation engine. How do I use your tool as part of that process?
If you're building a recommendation engine, you've got a model that you've set up, maybe using PyTorch or something like that. What you would want to do is, it depends. So if you want people to access that model, you might be running it in multiple locations, multiple ways. What we do is you could create essentially an agent after the model's already trained, right? So you've got a trained model at that point. You'd be able to host that model, launch it on a server, maybe a GPU. You would be able to use our communication bus to directly connect to it. So rather than setting up an HTTP server or endpoint like that, you'd be able to use our API to receive requests and then reply to responses without opening up any firewalls or ports on your server. So this is a common pattern that we're seeing in enterprise where they have stricter requirements for their data protections. So this is one way to do that. You could absolutely do it that way. That is a common pattern that we've been seeing.
So another thing to keep in mind, just for those that are wondering, how do I use this as part of my agentic flow? This would make a really good sort of middle orchestrator where you've got the different agents communicating with each other, saying, here's what I'm doing, here's what I need to get done, in a way that allows for a kind of real-time chat between those agents. Each agent gets essentially its own thread, and then there's a kind of collective understanding of what's happening, maybe through some kind of orchestrator. This provides that kind of mesh interconnection between the agents. So if you're spawning up, let's say, hundreds or thousands of agents on Google Cloud Run, they still need a way to know that all those other agents are available and doing other things. This is the glue.
This is the glue. You got it. You said it the right way. That's it. The glue.
Yeah, that's why they keep me around. All right, okay, zoom back out here. Zooming in. There we go. All right, there we go. Zooming out.
Nice.
It worked. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. This is great. I love your energy, man. You bring a great energy. We want to have you back. So when you have something else to show or want to show off, feel free to come by. We're doing the hackathon in a couple weeks. Feel free to join if you want. See what you can contribute to the world of media discovery.
So is it
Awesome.
quick question
Thank
is
you,
that
Steve.
is it Stephen, is it just like creating the key set if I want to programmatically use it, for is it just creating it and just connecting programmatically to it? That's it, right?
Yeah,
I might give it a go.
There are API keys there. You can get, you said key set, right?
Yeah.
So
Y-
API keys.
have-
We also have free API keys here. I'll post it here. So it's called demo. You just use the two words as our API keys.
Okay.
Just put the word demo in there, and here you go. We've had that since what was that, 2012.
Demo.
Those API keys
Okay,
have been-
so guys, so if anyone wants to try this service, all you have to do, go on to Claude Code Web, tell them you want to use the pub nub, just get them, put that in there. Then say the API keys are demo. Go build me something with PubNub. It'll literally build for the next 20 minutes, and you'll have a fully functional something at the end of the 20 minutes. Super easy to go. One click, you're good to go. I'm going to do that right now for you guys. I'm gonna see what the heck it builds for me while we go on to our next presentation. Thank you, Stephen. This was great. Really do appreciate it.
Cool
Excellent.
stuff.
Thank you.
Brad hasn't done a lightning talk for a while, so why don't we pivot over to Brad? Brad, what do you got on the slate?
You're making me follow Steven, man. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I better.
Better
So
you than
Steven and
me.
Rube, I better step up my game here. Yeah, thanks, Rob. Thanks, everyone. So I just shared a link if anyone wants to follow along to my repo. I I'm building a system that uses symbolic languages. Some of the test results are actually really good. It's about my main goal is reducing the ambiguity, especially for documentation first type programming, where the documents are actually written for AI and written for agent-to-agent communication. So I'm doing that, but to get started so I can actually do any kind of measurement, I needed an agentic system so I can actually base all my measurements from. And the benefit of it is it's actually creating itself and will be creating all this new symbolic language. So long story short, I kind of got stuck and realized that I needed some extra help developing this. So I went from my own agents, went from an agentic system. I create my own agents with similar to what Ruve has, where there's a memory database and there's also a learning database. And I just found that that agent coordination was good, but there were some things that I just couldn't quite get to. And I really wanted to add in some of the research that I did in the past, which is adding some cognitive ability, where the agents have their own personality, they have their deep domain knowledge, and they're able to go and retrieve those traits. And I'm finding that that provides very long-term um, continuity across both when you're creating the specs, but also when you're implementing the specs, is having, I call it a soul or North Star with that deep domain. So I was hacking around, created one last night that really did help me out. And then also I was playing around with Google AI Studio, so I ended up creating a website in Google, the build mode of AI Studio. But some of the results that I saw was, well, I had my regular agent coordination, which has different patterns that they recognize. So once they identify either a mistake that they've made in the past or something that's really awesome, they save it in a learning database, and that's shared among all my standard agents. And I'm finding that that's already providing, I think it's, yeah, 20% efficiency. So again, that wasn't quite good enough for me. So I wanted to go a little bit further, and with the swarm following a plan where I have these savant agents is what I call them, but these are the very deep learning high-end agents. They take a little bit longer than normal. So I created those with well, my agents actually created them for me through spec-driven development. And what I found was if I can have these agents that are kind of the overall orchestrators, it worked out really well. So I created, first of all, a strategic advisor that was really a clone of myself. Even though it's Athena and she's female, looks way better than me. She's supposed to be a clone of what I wanted to be. So I created Athena, who ended up going through and has strategic planning ideas, is able to look at multiple paths to make before making a decision, goes through a very quite a few skills to get to it. But most importantly, she has defined traits. So there's defined traits within the database that through MCP, she's able to, based on response, update the traits, update the goal settings, which is very important in this. She's able to look at the goals, and based on that, plus all the regular agent learning, it's getting pretty smart. I ended up from here, Athena said she needed some help in a collaboration, so ended up building Apollo, which is a truth builder, which really it's the boss of what I used to, when I presented, it was called Dr. House, which is my validation and assessor agent. But Apollo actually goes through and makes sure the truth is there, doesn't trust anything, will go out web source and do everything. And then from there, I built a master builder to actually take the plans and implement. And then for my own personal use, because I do a lot of course design, I needed Sophia, which is really works on Bloom's taxonomy and is an expert on taking ideas and doing a storytelling module. So I created these master agents, and I needed to do a test. Again, the premise for this system is this is my core system that's in prose. It's Claude Agent SDK, and I'm converting that into this newer symbolic language, and all the agents are helping to build it themselves and getting smarter over time. And what I ended up doing is that, well, I needed to run some tests. So I went through and I just asked the Savant agents to go and do some web research on something that's appropriate to compare baseline, which is Sonnet 4.5, then through my existing about 30 agents that are quite detailed with a lot of skills, and they have access to the learning system. So I consider them, for me, they work the best because it's the way that I program with longer agents that have a lot of skills. So I built the Savant agents, and some weird things started happening. Even though I would instruct, so one of the first tests, I'll be very quick from here because of time, but one of the first tests was create a new caching type system. So the baseline model, which was again similar to what the SWE medium level tests were, they adopted it and changed the actual test. But I ran baseline, and it performed quite well. It created a really nice caching system based on Redis and all this. My standard agents, they had a little bit of learning because I've been programming, so they have a couple hundred lines of learning. They performed quite a bit better. And what was weird when I got into the Savant agents is they went through and they looking at it, they were discussing each other, validating, web researching, and then checking again. But they realized that the requirement was less than 5 millisecond response time, and they found out that the existing agent they ran tests themselves that it was down to I think two milliseconds. So it already met the criteria. So it was kind of a neat thing that they're able to go outside of scope to solve a solution that was actually way better than the optimal solution. So I did a whole bunch of tests going through the results are here: strategic planning, some learning and instructional design. That's my background is teaching, and research validation, full stack engineering. The research, they weren't so great because I have not done a lot of learning, so there's no learnings in the learning database for them, and which means also the Savant agents don't have any. They're starting at ground zero without any knowledge at all. And then database reasoning. So what I found is at the very high end, which is where I need to play with this AI spec-driven development, you're seeing some might be small, but there's significant gaps. So you're going from baseline, but where I'm really comparing, it's significantly better than baseline. I think like 40% better. But the difference between standard and Savant is you're going from about a 92 to say adding those extra 3 or 4%, which my last part of the story is that means that ambiguity for tech-driven, spec-driven development will be really good, which means I can tell the agents to go do their stuff. And rather than writing 15 lines before I have to validate, they might be able to get to 20 or 25. And all of this is because I'm doing a capstone and decided to create the entire system first before I do my actual capstone. So that's it for my
Well,
presentation.
it's looking really good, Brad. Really good work here. This looks amazing. Are you just a couple quick questions? So you're doing learning. So what learning model or structure are you using to
Well,
do the
I'm
learning?
doing one is this is it's been a challenge, to be honest, is making sure that when we go through that validation step, uh, I forget the term I had, plan, write, verify. But when we hit the verify step, if there's any kind of errors, they're analyzing the errors and adding it into a learning database. So it's not traditional machine learning. It's adding to the database, and then they're able to go and look at the meta to find out what's been done in the past and be able to incorporate that. And then for the actual Savant agents, it's more of a dynamic memory graph. So they're taking, similar to what you talked about for the hackerspace, but they're taking what happened in the past and then looking at the chain on what the outcome would be. So they're able to go, and I call it like a chess game, or I heard a song on the radio back in 1999, being able to look at those memories and see is there any kind of close association with it. So it's not a traditional machine learning. It's more of a straight SQLite database with, and then the graph one.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
Brad, are you using any of the sort of the code and the tools and the stuff we're developing here in the Agentics Foundation, or is it all your own design and stuff?
I'm leveraging absolutely everything to develop the base system. So I'm like for Roof's database system and then the reasoning bank, there was a new MIT study. So I'm really having the savants go out, or the regular agents go out and do research and then devise their own based on my own requirements. I do quite a bit of human in the loop. So they'll go and then I refresh and manually update everything. For the neural symbolic, that's my own design completely. So that's really the meat and potatoes of where I want to get to. This is a starting point for a base model, and then it's when I go to the neural symbolic that's kind of my main project.
Nice.
Awesome.
If you're looking for a kind of the best sort of decisioning style learning system, I would ask the Claude Code or whatever you're using to use a decision transformer. But of all the different sort of learning models that I kind of go to, I keep coming back to that one. And it's
Okay.
really good at kind of doing the sequential decision-making process where the system has to sort of take in consideration what happened and what it needs to do next and then learn based on that.
Yeah.
The other ones are kind of geared towards like more traditional forms of, ML and RL that doesn't work particularly well for agents.
I find the agents really like that memory tree where they go and it's like a semantic search to see what has happened in the past and kind of doing their own branch to see, well, when I heard that music on the radio, I had my first kiss or these kind of analogies kind of thing. But I'm definitely going to try out the
But it sounds like you might already be using a decision transformer, if that's the
yeah, I
case.
might have pointed them to say go do research and that's kind of where it came. And then
Yeah,
I adapt everything to my own. Yeah, so I'm working on my capstone right now. I just got approval that I can ask for sponsorship, so I'm not going to hit up because we're in here. But yeah,
Oh, by
I
the
will be
way,
going
Brad's looking
open.
for sponsors. But Brad's looking for sponsors. You should totally sponsor Brad's research. It's amazing. If you know anyone that has money and wants to sponsor the most cutting edge, looking at you, Daddy Warbucks. And there you go.
And I
One
will
pitch
be
for you.
open coring everything. So as we get going, I will have a team, and there's been a lot of volunteers that have been helping out. We'll be able to look and do some real spec-driven development. But yeah, thanks for the plug, Rube.
Hey, Brad, quick question here. Do you you may have answered this, I may have missed it because I've been multitasking here. Do you have any specific models? Is it a single model that you're using, or multiple models, or anything like that in that area?
I'm not doing traditional machine learning in this at all. Is that what you mean?
Kind of like, or is it all Claude or Gemini?
Oh
or,
yeah. This right now it's just built with Claude Code, the agent. I upgraded from Pros to the Agent SDK fairly recently, but it's really more of the agent orchestration. And then when I go, the agents will actually be developing, and I'm just finalizing the parser. I actually got the parser instead of 20% ambiguity from originally it was 65% ambiguity. My target was 20%. My worst case parser is getting down to under 6% ambiguity, and I'm going down to a Lego piece design that I'm hoping to get down to under
Explain that.
0.2%.
Just explain that in simple terms for those who might not understand. Yeah.
Sorry. Simple terms is you tell me you want to create a login system. Well, that's traditional. What I'm doing is I want to create a login system, stripping out all the details that aren't important, and then making sure that it uses a template to find best practices to create that. So the goal is by the end of the documentation, you'll have this is the exact way of doing a TypeScript connecting to Superbase based on those
So
kind of
focus. So ambiguity is removing things that are like artifacts that don't relate to the purpose of the agent or research process.
Yeah, it's similar to what that tune thing that's going out, that there's getting a whole bunch of stars, but I'm actually adding symbolic language. So rather than, oh, tell me, add up all these kind of things, it's using the symbol sigma, which has one meaning rather than thousands of meanings.
Gotcha.
Reduction of ambiguity. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Salesforce could use some experimentation in the neural symbolic savant agent space.
Brad, the problem with that, your new nickname is going to be neurosymbolic savant.
Yeah.
I'll have to get the shirt and
NSS.
Yeah.
I'll get it for the next hackathon in Toronto meetup.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Gotta get
everyone.
that portal for our swag done. That's on me again. I'm the bottleneck. we started the process. We got a portal from Printful or whatever. We just need to finish it off. So if anyone wants to help us with some of this, yeah, let me know. We got lots of stuff we have to do, but aren't. But Brad, thanks for showing us what you're working on. That's really cool.
I'd say you followed up from Stephen Bloom just fine, Brad. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so I guess we're crossed over into the open portion, but we do still have Dragan on deck.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so looks like my time, but after these two guys, yeah, maybe we should wrap up, huh?
No, you're great.
Okay, so let's see. I've been working on tightening up my QA fleet, but next to it, as part of Agentic Tribe, I started working on quite an interesting project. Can you see the executive summary screen? Yeah. So my tribe, Team 2, is started working on a project called the Jetting Teams that should be a hybrid human AI organization platform. And it should represent a transformative organizational platform that enables seamless collaboration between human team members and AI agents, enabling extending human capabilities, enabling 24/7 team productivity, not automation, framework for collaboration. And I really like the strategic vision to build the first production-ready hybrid organization framework where AI agents and humans work as true collaborators with seamless handoffs, shared context, continuous learning, adaptive autonomy, and complete transparency in all AI operations. So that was, problem, key stakeholders. So, nice plan created in the specification phase of the Spark framework, working on the system. And here is a nice system architecture that it suggested. Yes?
Quick question. Is this supposed to be for the human consumptions or consumption by the agents?
Human consumption, where the agents would or should take over seamlessly the job when human goes on a break or is finished with the work for today or already is working on a task and is busy at the moment, so they cannot take on the task they should be assigned to them.
Okay, I see. Because this week I was working basically, I have very similar prompts to yours, and I was working like basically improving performance, reducing token usage, and I was working a lot of basically presentation things in the documents. For example, this diagram, that's millions of tokens. So like if you express it as a mermaid, it would be like, you would basically, it's probably like a few hundred tokens there. As a mermaid, it was going to be like 25.
Okay, but yeah, this
something
that came,
something to balance.
That came out of the Spark
Dragan,
agent. Yes.
Just to clarify, Dragan. So I
Yes.
love that you're doing Spark type spec. It's awesome, right? So and
Yes.
just to clarify, this is your primary core spec, right? Everything drives from this down, and everything connects back to this.
Yeah, this is functional specification. So
Yes.
the let's say core, I need to find where was the original specification that Ruben created for the team for the project, and then I directed Spark agents inside the Cloud code using Cloudflow to write the specification, then pseudocode, and then the architecture based on that. So that was all prepared. And from there, I asked to create an MVP implementation roadmap. And I already implemented phases 1 to, I think, 4 already. And I have a dashboard running. So this is something that I implemented in less than 3 days running next to, other projects. And here is, the dashboard. Oh, let me see it. Logged me out while I was showing this. So I can create new agents already. I can create new teams. I need to add like a human management part, so that's missing. Create tasks, metric settings, it's not working. So this is really finished maybe half an hour before this meetup. So, and I say this is MVP phase should be almost done. I think I have some testing and some wrapping up to do, and from there we can build upon to the, let's say, production-like application.
This is really good example of spec-driven development.
And yeah, and
what
you using the goal planning agent to create the plan for what I intend to work on.
Yeah, and what's in so I agree with Vlad in terms of mermaid diagrams. I use them as well, and I should probably put that as like a requirement in Spark, to be honest. But what's important and what you're seeing here with Dragon doing, and which is a really great example, is the idea of phased implementation. And oftentimes there's this, I can build everything I want all at once, and I'm going to create the world's greatest whatever. And yes, you can, but the key to any of these development processes is this idea of the MVP. That's like and this is what he's done a really good job of illustrating. It's that main piece that makes everything else you want to do in the future possible.
Yeah. So phase, actually, I use the phase implementation exactly like what Dragons do. And this is like, I guess it's confirmation on he's on the right path. I mean, or I am on the right path. One thing is I have like very strong instructions for the cloud, like for agents, like when at the end of the phase, do not commit, do not anything. Let me go in and see.
Same,
like,
same. I need to do the review before they
and
do
that's
commit.
what takes me a long time because I leave them overnight. They just, I mean, my pattern now, they sit and code for like hour and a half an hour, right? And then I have to commit it, come in and like see like what they did. And a lot of time it was the problems occur from like me not being careful specifying what I want, or like myself not even knowing what I want, like. And when you see the build things, you would basically say, hey, let's go back. We forgot about this, but yeah, this is good. And one idea kind of occurred to me. I'm gonna try it. Maybe have two sets of documents, one very compressed and terse just for the agent, and just a compilation of it for the human consumption.
Yes.
Nice idea.
Yes.
Yeah. To
Yeah,
create
like you just
like
have
a
this
offset of data, one for human consumption, another for agent consumption.
Yeah,
that's the problem. It's too much. There's like I got 1,000 different MD files. There's no way for me to read them or really even understand them. Executive summary or something that says here's the parts you really need to know.
But these are nice ones. I mean, for the people and for like just have a doc. So maybe have an agent that basically takes very terse kind of like specs and just generates those for people to look at. But the agents don't look at those. And those are like read-only basically, right? You just you only modify the specs that very like compressed ones, and those you just generate for like you say you have documentation.
Yep.
And because another problem actually that's like that actually that's what my other problem I have the commit messages. Oh, it's the release, right?
Yeah, this is now the release, one of the releases that I did a couple of weeks ago, where I was working on reducing the context of, again, agents and skills, and to rewrite in a different way to really reduce the context size. And I also worked on the MCP tool and domain specific tools developed for my QE agents.
Exact problem. I get the commit messages, they look like that, and you don't really need that much detail in there because you have like agents updated, right? You can just look at the files which was updated, right? And then
but okay, this is like a PR message, so that it's trying to put whatever is in plan.
Yeah, but it puts a lot of brain overload whoever looks at this PR message.
Definitely. One more thing, I started working for my QE platform is enhancing it through adding more observability, telemetry, explainable visualization system, and constitution-based quality evaluation. So maybe I'm quite impressed what Brad is doing, but this is from my background and perspective. So again, I created 3 separate plans using Goal Planner, and then again using Goal Planner created like an overview plan that recognized in which phases again, or which in which order this should be executed, starting with the base, giving it observability, leaning on that visualization, and then constitution, and in that way, reduced also total original estimated hour, even though these hours, with agent developing are,
Yeah,
quite,
it's BS. Total BS.
reduced.
Yeah,
And one of the things was asking really like, to keep the open source stack for the whatever it plans to implement. And I'm already done, I think, phases 1 to 3. Still need to work on phases 4 to 5, and this should be released maybe during the weekend. So some
Love
more
it.
improvements coming to the QA fleet. One more project, something that we started on the Novi Sad meetup. I'm still sharing, right?
Yeah.
So on the second meetup on 14th of November, I asked community here in Novi Sad, what should we work on? And they asked, okay, let's start working on a community social network. And I used like a goal planner during that session and gave it like to prepare a plan, and we will continue with the implementation of this project in the next meetups, Novi
Oh, that's
Sad,
awesome.
and also I'm trying to create a group or like a team here in Novi Sad or in Serbia that will join the hackathon. So that would be my contribution also from here. Any
Amazing
questions?
works. Amazing work. Lorraine, you have a question?
I do. Thank you for this. I tried to go on the GitHub. I couldn't find this project, but
Which one? Tribe teams or the?
Yeah, the tribe teams. I think someone else.
It's still a private project only for the tribe that I'm in, so it's shared only with the tribe members. As soon as we wrap it up and test it properly, I think we will release that to the public. That's the plan.
Okay. So I think from the perspective, so in the scope of learning, so there's a lot of principles that Ruth's been sort of driving as part of the Agentics Foundation that you've implemented really, really well. Is there a way that you could give us like a high level like prompt or sort of like structure where we could go away and start to play with something like this?
I need to probably create then something that will be publicly shared, because I created something and I shared that with the tribe. So maybe I need to think of making that really publicly available, because
Actually,
I took screenshots of each step while I was creating the specification, the problems that I encountered, how I resolved them, because some of the documents couldn't be created at once, so I needed to explicitly ask, like creating smaller batches, create smaller files in order to be able to create it. Sorry, Rob.
And you can also see my my PRDs on the gist.github/RubeNet. So when I build some of the things I don't build, but here's, for example, the vector system that I was showing earlier. This is the initial specification, right? And to build this particular specification, I used Claude Deep Research along with the goal-orientated action that Dragon was showing a moment ago, and that basically allows it to sort of navigate and discover in a more efficient way. Once I had that in place, I then essentially implemented this using a swarm. And this thing burned a lot of tokens. I think I ran out quite quickly this week because of it. But everything you need to see is here, and I've got other ones too. So for example, here's my next thing I might build. This is a new approach to a tiny recursive model for routing, this different crazy ideas. But you don't obviously need to do it this way, but what this does show is kind of how I'm going and using that specification. If that's helpful at all. And maybe I'll do like a simple generic version that you can just kind of pop in. If you use Cloudflow or ask Claude Code to use Cloudflow, there's an agent that's called Goal. that'll do almost everything that you don't know what to ask. Chris, you got a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, Brad, I said it already, but that was amazing. And then leading into this is very specific to the things that I'm doing to Dragon. So I know you're working on this with a tribe, but we just happen to be at similar points with the human interaction piece. I posted something yesterday. I don't know. Sometimes you see some of my posts about human in the loop, and even back to like Vincent's Strider's voice communication pieces. I've connected with him offline as well, like Twilio for agent voice to voice communication. Like the team lead kind of gives you a call. I mean, it's all engineering oriented, but of course could be extrapolated to any department. So my system is, I've been working on it since like July in a similar manner to yourself, right? And I actually finally got tired of just using Claude Research and incorporated Spark and Spec Kit together. I was commenting earlier, but just the research portion of Spec Kit of Spark. I'm sorry, and so it's a little more trim. It doesn't have all the pseudocode pieces and so on, but it's really helpful as well, of course, to have the interagent communication and have the human in the loop, and integrate that with a PM system. I used Archon, which is I think one of our members' products as well. Chris, I forget his last name. But it's a MCP oriented PM system that's real friendly to agents, and so naturally the human can pick it up, check it out, and then what I thought was, I'd be happy to share with you offline, but just something that we're all very familiar with, this profile, of an agent slash person, kind of like what Brad's doing. And Claude loves that. Athena's agent, by the way, used it yesterday in my in one of my things that I'm doing. So anyway, just wanted to say great work, really cool, and interesting to your points as well as Vlad's, I believe, where you can build a lot of stuff, and then what's your validation, what's the time you want to take to be sure that you
Something to show you guys. Sorry,
yeah, the
Chris,
brutal
to
honesty,
barge
I love
in.
that.
Yeah,
the
so
real truth.
I one of the things I created and added, like in I think 2 or 3 releases ago, it's this one, brutal honesty review, and it helps a lot, I must admit. So I'm using that after each round of an agent says they are finished. First this one. If this one finds a problem, a new skill, because of course I'm a Sherlock level. So give me a second. Here it is. So this is one that goes and finds, give me the data. So show me really and dig deep and find the proofs for whatever was done. And one more that I really love when brainstorming, and I think Brad will love this one, is the six thinking hats for testing. So yeah, so this is Edward de Bono. That's his
Where's
lateral
that
thinking.
coming from? Like where
Six
is
thinking hats coming from Edward de Bono. So lateral thinking. So you can look up Edward de Bono and lateral thinking approach, and you will get this approach of six thinking hats, like a white one, that's facts and data. Black hat, risks and cautions. Yellow hat, benefits and optimism. Green hat, creativity and alternatives. Red hat, emotions, intuition. And blue hat, process and organization. In this way, when you release this on your requirements, for instance, or on the implementation or whatever part you want to analyze, you will get like 6 points matrix of understanding what's happening and how it works. So this is part of the QE newest version. So these 3 skills are also added in the last 2 releases.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
Do you have anything in it that's browser oriented to be able to look at the front end? Just curious.
Yeah, but my visual testing agent uses either Playwright or Chrome Dev browser, MCP. So whatever you install inside your environment, visual tester can use to, run the visual test and create the visual test for the, front end if you need for front end. You have API testers that create API tests. You have,
So
red green a TDD team, again based on the work that Drew was working, but going into more specifics.
all right, well we've got a few minutes left. Anybody have anything they want to quickly show? This is your chance to show off whatever you vibed or created or just random want to discuss in the last few minutes.
I have a quick question for Dragan, if you can.
And
if you have
Chris
a-
has his hand, and
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to share some things that I've been working on recently, which is first of all, I put together a theory, and this is the theory of epistemic symmetry. So this explains kind of a lot of how AI has impacted and changed the world in this theory, but essentially how the real big impact that I feel like AI has had on the world is the fact that it's changed epistemology itself. It used to be, this is like the study of how human beings ingest knowledge. And it used to be asymmetric, where you had a question and then you figured out an answer. But because of AI, where the question is now equivalent to the answer and you can reverse engineer answers to questions, it's now bidirectional. And that's completely changed the physics of knowledge itself. And so I've been working on building systems that take advantage of this. I've been building and so essentially one of the things that this opens up is it allows for us to no longer have to just do historical data analysis, where we need data to then analyze to be able to predict and outcomes. We can now do teleological data analysis. And so, for instance, what this means is I can take, say, right here, I have a bunch of research I did for this company. And essentially what this did is it broke down, what burning problems in the world that they should be solving, what their points of difference are, what their positioning statements are, what their frame of reference is. Essentially what this is setting up is an ideal state for the business itself. And so what you can do then is you can take this ideal state and you can embed it into, like, say, a single vector, right? And you can embed up to like 10 pages into like one vector or something like that, right? And then you can analyze, now that you have an ideal state, you can compare everything that is happening to that ideal state in the embedding space by embedding whatever is done and comparing the cosine similarity to the, say, the goal or the ideal state, right? And so this is a way that you can align an entire company, the humans as well as the agents in the company, all with the same purpose, the same alignment, right? So for instance, like, you can define different ideal states as well. So let's say maybe you're in customer service and your ideal state is you want your customer service representatives to be, say, kind and empathetic. And you can find, say, the average, the mean embedding between those two spots in that embedding space. And that can then be your ideal state. And then you can take, say, a customer service interaction, you can embed it and compare the semantic similarity of their interaction to that goal or that ideal state, and how far away from, say, empathy that interaction was. You can kind of judge how far off from the ideal state is this person. And then you can calculate that with very little resources, right? You just need like a small embedder that could be ran on like a CPU or something to then compare whatever they're doing.
You're using vector style machine learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I think that what you're describing is the future of machine learning. I don't think this idea of monoliths, I said it again, monoliths are the future. If you have to use PyTorch for most applications, you're probably already behind.
Yeah. So the main big project that I should have completed this week is I've been developing a teleological neuromorphic multipath conditional multi-hop reasoning system. So it uses spiking neural networks. It can be ran on neuromorphic hardware. I don't have neuromorphic hardware, but I'm using a neuromorphic simulator with Brian too. And you can simulate the networks and the spikes. And
sorry, neuromorphic hardware. You talk about the MPU that are in the new Intel processors or something else?
like the Loihi and the IBM True North.
Okay.
Neuromorphic hardware that's specifically designed to handle spiking neural networks laid out in graph structures.
Check out the paper that I was briefly showing a moment ago called, it came out about a week ago, production grade tiny recursive models. Basically, it's using this this idea. I probably can't explain it right, but essentially it's vectorizing the structure for creating a kind of router of sorts for exactly how you make the decisions like you've outlined. But it's super light, super fast, and probably be perfect for what you're describing. I think it was Google, probably Google. It's always Google these days.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah, it's
kind
cool
of stuff I
stuff.
was up to. But as far as like how you were thinking about how to solve the problem with the TV shows and the movies, right? And you're like, we need synthetic data. And it is a good idea, which you were mentioning with the psychology state. I think you remember me showing that I had come up with that behavioral marketing ontology that could predict people's behavior patterns, or you can do the similar thing for psychological state. And then once you see what their psychological state is, you can say use an LLM or whatever to figure out what their ideal state is or their ideal show would be. And then you could embed that and then see how other shows, how close
Be
cosine
careful.
similarity.
Be careful with that because that is the digital equivalent of like a dopamine hit and all the reasons why TikTok is so dangerous if done in a way that manipulates the viewer. So we just got to be very careful to have the ability to sort of really truly understand the psychology that you're using and how it's applied.
Yeah, I know. I'm in mass comm. Some other research I was doing was with seeing how the algorithms that they use to predict what you're watching, how that impacts children, say age 12 to 16, right? So in that age range, you're exploring your identity, right? And you often will maybe come up with one identity, try it out and try another identity. And you go through this like exploration phase of like finding yourself. But what happens when that first identity you've identified, the algorithm probably picks up on that before you even have, and then that's all you see, right? And that's all you get fed on social media. How does that impact your ability to switch or explore to other identities? Or is the algorithm just sticking you to the first one, feeding you everything and just kind of making you go that route? So that was some other research I've been working on.
All right, guys. I see a question from Scott. We're gonna have to wrap up pretty quick here. I think I'm already late for my next call. Scott, any final thoughts? And by the way, Chris, always great to see you. I'd love to have you part of our hackathon in a couple weeks. I'm sure you'll create some crazy, mind-blowing thing that'll blow. Anyway, really do appreciate you showing up and showing your stuff. All right, Scott. Last comment, question, concern.
Yeah. Chris, that's fascinating stuff. I wanted to ask about like embedding, I guess, this optimal state for a company. And then I guess are they human resources or agentic resources that you would be, I guess, training to go back or training their skills to reach an optimal state for the business? Is that kind of what you're
Well, say as like the CEO, you could get reports on how closely aligned every company or every department is, and you can get a report every day with how close in alignment they are to the ideal state you want your company to go in, right? So that everybody's aligned, because that's usually what hurts companies, causes them to fail, or limits growth is not everybody being on the same page, right? It's like, yeah,
that's really cool stuff. Cool way of using vectors and stuff to kind of pull out that alignment without having to really define the exact things that need to be done.
By the way, folks, we've got a Discord channel, and if we're in the after part of our little Friday hackathon hackerspace activity. But for those who want to continue chatting, we should just go to the voice area of our Discord, and we can chat about this stuff all day, every day, and you can show as many demos as you possibly can if there's anyone willing to watch at that point. There to get there, if you haven't signed up, is discord.agentix.org. I'm just going to check that the link still works.
As some people are probably not familiar with this particular feature, would you perhaps just quickly show like how could someone go there and start that? I think it can be a bit overwhelming for a new user in Discord.
Let's see here. And we have almost 500 people online, which is pretty cool. All right. Let me see if I can find where I'm at. I'm gonna share my screen here for you guys quick. This is the desktop app, but you should get the general idea. One sec. All right. Here we are. Where am I? I'm in. So we've got different areas here. So I'm in. I went to discord.agentix and I logged in or whatever. This is the event. Martin's looks like he's updated to show it's happening now. Then we've got different discussions from different parts of the world, the London Hackathon, things like that. And somewhere down here we go. We've got voice channels, and we see Jed's hanging out in there right now. So thanks for that, Jed. And we can, it has all the same basic functionalities. I think you can share your screen and do all kinds of things like that. And we've got a video capabilities. So let's just go in there and see what's going on. I hope it doesn't conflict. Welcome to stages. Your mic will be muted unless they're invited. Looks like a bunch of you've already joined.
Nice.
You've been invited. All right. I think we should. I've got a few minutes. I actually don't have a call until 12. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump in here and we'll continue if anyone wants to continue for the next little bit here. Actually, I'm sure we have still Martin on the line. He's our resident Discord expert. But if you do have trouble, Martin's the guy. He knows more about this Discord than any of us at this point. All right.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thanks everyone. This is always a highlight of my week. Lots going on. The Genetics world is hot. What else can we say?
Awesome.